the density of water. This is a lab that you completed in class today. So if you didn't understand it, let's take a look at it. The problem was, what is the density of water? So we all know that water is the most abundant compound on the Earth's surface. Many substances can dissolve in water. It's the only common substance found naturally in all three states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. And it's essential for all life on the Earth. It makes up about 78% of the human body, etc., etc. Density is another physical property of water. We already looked at cohesion, adhesion, and surface tension. And density is the amount of matter in a given space. So when you're calculating the density, you must divide the mass by the volume. All elements and compounds have a unique density. So if you look at the chart on your lab that looks like this, you will see the common substances that you'll be working on. So let me go a little bit forward so I can show you. Baby oil has a density of 0.8, corn syrup 1.3, dish soap, etc., etc. So these are the different substances that we talked about in class, and their different densities. So the question to you is, what do you think the density of water is? So in my first period class, a lot of the kids knew what the density of water was, so we needed to prove it. So on your paper, you put what you think the density of water is. And then we'll proceed. So let's go on. How do we find the density of water? First thing we have to do is measure the mass of an empty graduated cylinder. So once I do that, I check it off. So I get my graduated cylinder, I measure the mass of an empty one. So the empty graduated cylinder's mass, my cameraman, you can come a little closer if you'd like. Make sure that it's equal. So the graduated cylinder's mass is about 40, what do we got here? It's taking a little while. It is 40, it's too heavy still. What do we get? You can zoom in on that if you'd like. Is it equal? 40 what?
I think so. Like
what do you think it is, sir?
40, like 42. Yeah,
42. Okay, come back to me. It's 42. This is the mass of the graduated cylinder without water. What happened here? We got double. Without water is 42. And is it 0.0?
Yeah.
40, or is it 41.9? Is it 41.9?
Yeah.
41.9,
yeah.
No negative numbers, milliliters. Now I have to pour 50 milliliters of water into the graduated cylinder. 50 milliliters. I have a little pipette to make sure that I do it correctly. So I'm going to take this off and pour in 50 milliliters. When I get close to the 50 milliliters, then I'll decide how much more or less I need. 50 milliliters. I feel like it's a little bit too much, so I'm going to put the pipette in. Take some out. I think I'm almost there. I have about, now I have 50 milliliters. So when I put the graduated cylinder on here, 50 milliliters is going to bring me close to here. It's still a little bit heavy. 50. And how are we doing? You think it's close to the right number?
Yeah, probably.
90, what does it say? Read it for me.
90.7.
90.7. So right now it's 90 and 7/10 grams. So now I'm going to subtract the two, and I get 90.7 minus 41 and 9/10. I get 48 and 8/10 grams. So measure the mass of the graduated cylinder of water. I did that. Record it in the data table. Now I subtract the two. So I'm subtracting the mass of the graduated cylinder without the water from the mass with the water, and I record it. Make sure I have my proper units. I'm good. So now I know that 50 milliliters of water has a mass of 48 and 8/10 grams. So let's see what the next step is. Now it asks me to calculate the density. When we calculate the density of something, we need to remember FSA, formula, substitution, answer. So we looked at the introduction, and we know that the density formula is mass divided by volume, because we love density. Mass divided by volume. See the little M and the V. Now, substitute the mass. We just figured out the mass a little while ago. Let's see what that is. The mass is 48 and 8/10 grams. Let's go back. 48 and 8/10 grams. No naked numbers. The volume we poured in, 50 milliliters. 50 and 0/10 milliliters. Last step, we want to make sure that we divide. What are we dividing? 48 and 8/10 divided by 50. So what goes in the calculator first? 48 and 8/10 divided by 50. And we get our answer to be 0.976 grams per milliliter. That's not okay because our instruments only round to the nearest tenth. So we need to round to the tenth. So 0.976 is 976 thousandths. That's not tenths. I have to look at the tenth spot. Here it is. The 9 is in the 10th spot. The 7 is going to round this 9 up. What comes after 9 when I count? 10. But what do? How do I put a 10 in there? You can't put the number 10 there, so you have to push the 10 over. So it's 1 and 0/10 grams per milliliter is the density of water. The rest of the lab you can do on your own. Good job today, folks.